My name is Ande Sivad. I'll be your host on this podcast, the Airhead Diaries, a chronic illness warrior's journal with Ande Sivad. So let me introduce myself. Since this is my first podcast ever, I am so excited to be here. I love speaking, fashion, music, and really anything full of creative authenticity. I hope that this podcast really reflects that and you just can see a huge part of me while I go on this journey with you. I'd like to think of this podcast as one giant brainstorming session or imagination station session, as I like to call it, but I guess we'll get to that later. It's a diary of sorts full of my favorite introspective journal entries, music, video, and people. I hope everyone listening is making the most out of the day they have been given. I want you to know how special you are, and though the lonely in life is guaranteed, your reaction to your obstacles will make or break what I truly believe is your beautiful life. So, my experience does not come with formal education, but of life experience. And I've put my life on internet display for over a decade. I used to tell my story and just dive in, let everyone know the disease I have and the struggles I have gone through. The illness I have is so rare and the name is so long that most people have never even heard of it. I don't just want to tell my story anymore. I want to show my story, and I want to make it reflective and relatable to you, the viewer, the listener. In this podcast, I'm going to dig deep and hopefully inspire you to do the things I might never be able to. So now imagine something for me. Imagine a sundown. Homework has piled up and ninth grade is new. Yes, I want you to go back to the ninth grade. Anxiety is high. School is transitioning from a friendly learning place to an institution, and the formula is not quite there yet in the public school system. You pause, sigh, and decide to take a break. The TV is captivating your 8-year-old little sister, so you sit down on the couch. Suddenly, a pain sears into your forehead, and it never goes away. The days pass by like pizza slices at a pizza party, so fast, and every day you wake up with the optimistic view that this day is going to be the day that you feel better. As you receive your meals, your face is changing. I don't think you ever remember getting off that couch. Was there a couch? And was your sister ever a kid? The world has spun on for years. You never wake up, and the past just becomes a blurry simulation. So, let's get this straight. 10 years later, you aren't better. Life has actually gotten worse, and you realize that you have spent half of your life stuck into a sunken-in couch, waiting for your life to come. That was the beginning. That's how I spent my teenage years and entered adulthood. Not okay. See, I know I'm not the only one that this has happened to. Time is a thief, and when trauma comes, the first thought is to close the blinds or fly away. If this is or was you, and you are listening, I understand. I personally closed the blinds and subsequently lost my mind. There are so many lessons in years that never had to be stagnant, and I'm grateful for those lessons. I will tell you some tales of my lost years in podcasts to come. There were so many things that happened to me. Happened to me. Happened for me out of my control. But my response, it was thin. And I can't get it back. But I do try to move forward every day. So I'm going to tell you stories. I'm going to let you know my good and bad days. I sound eloquent sometimes, but it is very hard to cope with my brain. It feels like there are parts missing. It's smoke and mirrors with an invisible illness. I might look great on the outside, but the inside is complicated. I want you to take away and embrace this work of chance that you found this podcast. I want you to not feel so lonely in your struggle. You are not the only one who is hurting. You're not the only one who's marginalized. You're not the only one who is sick or going through a really challenging, almost impossible situation. To my chronic illness warriors, you are not a product of the pain in your body. And if you are a product of the suffering that you have endured, I hope that it's made you better. It's made me a better person, but we'll get to that. This is my new journal, my new diary. So a little bit more about me. I'm 27. I like to sew in my spare time. I actually make dresses and skirts in a fundraiser for this podcast that you can contribute to if you have time. My favorite television series is Game of Thrones. The 6th and 7th season are my favorite. I used to like the show called Love Is. It used to show on OWN, Oprah Winfrey's network. And when I heard of the cancellation, my heart was broken. The sun had to set on another black couple. Again. But yeah. Daenerys Targaryen, aka Emilia Clarke, is not a bad choice, as she is the dragon queen in and out of Westeros. Don't tell me she's not fierce. Slay! I am a Christian. Hopefully my choice of TV shows does not deter you. My faith will probably pop up every now and again on this show. So real talk, I live in Alabama. It's got a lot of grass. It is probably everything you think it is, but I think that there are good and bad, like pros and cons to every situation, and there are a lot of beautiful things about Alabama, which is probably why they call it Alabama the Beautiful. I really hope my heart does not grow totally cold by a cruel world that I know all too well. And I really want to hear you. Don't hesitate to write me or email me. I hope that this can be a safe space for you and me. The Airhead Diaries, a chronic illness warrior's journal with Ande Sivad. I was diagnosed with a disease. Brace yourself. Okay. It's called paraneoplastic limbic encephalitis. My body attacks my brain, and I am 1 in 100,000 so far. And the world is pretty big, so that's really not a lot of people when you think about it. Most doctors have never heard of this disease, and so you have to see a specialist, and things can get really expensive really fast. And so right now, as a family, and as an individual single woman, I am trying to see kind of where I need to go, what I need to do to get better. It is not exactly fair that you do have to fight for your well-being in the medical system. But if you have to do it, I'm up for it. And yeah, sometimes I'm really loopy, incoherent, and in pain. And sometimes I'm like this. I'll likely make a fool of myself or do something I'm not supposed to on this podcast. I get really cringy. Sometimes I feel more like myself, but I'm never really 100%. And it's really frustrating to feel like the airhead in the room. Or like a more relatable example would be working the hardest in the room and not seeing too many results, and people patting you on the back and not realizing that you worked a whole shift more than they did. So I feel like an airhead, but if there's any truth in that, I will definitely let you decide. Okay, I hope you enjoy what's to come. I will be posting every 2 weeks and hopefully get to posting at least once a week and so forth. Please enjoy. And this is the Airhead Diaries, a chronic illness warrior's journal with Ande Sivad. Thank you.